Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to everyone as we come together on this beautiful Shabbat afternoon, as we are ready to enter another young man into the fold of our Jewish tradition and identity, with Leo and his family joining us, family and friends, both in our sanctuary and in our online community. I invite you, those with us physically, turn to those white cameras in the back, wave hello, say Shabbat Shalom. So we join together, communities, one, united in this moment. I am privileged to be on the bima leading us today also. Heidi Gantwerk, maybe a number of you know her in many ways, former chair of SCJA. We also, the current president and CEO of Federation, and in her night job, she's one of our amazing soloists. And we're blessed to have her, and of course, Andy Mayer on piano this afternoon and evening. Many of you may be familiar what becoming bar mitzvah is about, but perhaps some of you are not. This time is an opportunity to stand up in our tradition and become an upstander. It's about taking on a mantle of leadership. It's about expressing what it means to be proud of this heritage when we go midor vador, from generation to generation. So today and this afternoon, as we enter into the evening hours, we know that Leo will lead us beautifully. He will incite and inspire us with his own words of Torah knowledge and blessing. And behind everything he does, knowing that his community of Beth Israel and all his communities are here today with him. And whether you're new to our synagogue or you're joining us once again, we welcome all of you and we invite you to participate as much as possible. That in truth, it's incumbent upon all of us to either lift the words off the prayer book pages or off the camera screen, off the video screens that you're watching at home, so that we may live them through our voices and through our hearts. That is the moment, that is the opportunity that we have this evening. We begin on page 70 with the words, Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How wonderful it is as we draw together, brothers and sisters. When we reach this new moment of joy and blessing, we are enveloped in tradition. This envelopment is noted in the wearing of a talit. A talit has the opportunity to express our readiness to let the community know that we have taken up a new mantle of leadership and sacred responsibility. And it's not so much how ornate the talit is. In truth, I've always believed that the more worn a talit is, the more in fashion it is. Because it's about the understanding that what it stands for and what we express with it. So the tzitzit, the fringes, represent the mitzvot, the sacred responsibilities that we take on as individuals in our tradition. So I delight in calling upon Jessica and Rob to join with Leo up on the bima as they present him with his talit and as they share some words of blessing of their own.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hitatef b'tzitzit.
As an older father, I've watched many of my friends go through this throughout the years. I always wondered what it would feel like to be up here on this special day, and I can tell you it feels incredible. Leo, I can't believe this day is actually here. It seems like yesterday that I carried you into the house, sat on the couch, and placed you onto my chest. From that moment on, I knew that for the rest of my life, I'd be there to help protect you, to guide you, and to try to raise you to become a good human being. And I can proudly say, so far, so good. When I think about what it means for us to be up here on this bima together, continuing with the traditions that the Jewish people have been carrying on for thousands of years, I can't help but think of the saying in Judaism, Lador Vidor, which literally means from generation to generation. I'm so grateful to have my parents, your grandparents here today. I only wish that my grandpa Leo was here today to see what my son Leo has become. He would be so proud of you. Speaking of proud, your mom and I are so pleased at what you've accomplished. You worked very hard to overcome some early challenges in life, and this resilience and determination that you've shown will serve you well down the road. Your passion for sports and your friends is infectious. You're adventurous, inquisitive, borderline mischievous, and very independent. I don't know if that means many other young boys who would go across the country to attend a summer camp without knowing any other campers. This comfort and belief in yourself will no doubt help you get through life's many challenges that are yet to come. My hope for you as your father is that you continue to work hard, play hard, and seek out your own path in life, trying new things along the way, knowing that your mother and I will always be here to support you. I love you, son. Thanks.
Leo, like Dad, I have watched many of our friends stand in this very spot saying words of wisdom to their children, and I thought I would know how it would feel to be here, but I had no idea. My heart is so full of pride for you, and so here are my words of wisdom for you. Number one, I hope that you always remember to be kind, and that you remember that being kind is different than being not mean. Number two, I hope you always remember your place in the world, and that you always remember how lucky you are. You are so fortunate in so many ways, but I hope you remember that luck is not the most important thing, and that hard work is the most important thing. You are not always going to be the smartest or the strongest or the fastest person in the room, but I hope you are always the hardest working person in every room that you are in. Number three, I hope that you remain a good friend and a good brother, but especially a good brother. Sam is your partner for life, and I hope you remember that people will judge you not just by who you are, but by how you treat the people you love. Number four, I hope you keep asking questions. You ask more questions than any human being I have ever met in my life, And it is exhausting, and it is sometimes infuriating, but it is beautiful. So I hope you keep asking questions, and I hope you get better and better at finding the answers yourself. Number 5, I hope you keep doing hard things. Grandma Faye used to say that we can do anything hard if we just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And she would have been so proud to be here today and so proud to see you become a man. And finally, number 6, I hope you always remember who you are. I have said since you were teeny tiny that you are me in so many ways. I know you like to your core. And so when that little rule follower gene that you got from me is telling you to back away from a situation, do it, no matter what Dad says. I read somewhere that being a parent is the only job where you know you've succeeded if you basically get yourself fired. And I kept thinking about that as I was trying to think about what to say to you today. And I just have to say, I don't agree. We are going to let you go in the world, and we are going to let you figure out things on your own, and we are not going to snowplow the way for you. But I am never getting myself fired. For the rest of my life, I will be here for you, and we will be here for you, and we will be your cheerleaders, and we will be your support, and we will be your guides. So go do incredible things, and know that I love you more than anything in the whole wide world.
Are we done?
We're done.
Yeah. See you later.
What do I do now?
Wait. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upwards in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other and to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and bring that vision to life. Please turn to page 220 as we chant responsibly the Psalms of Ashrei. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Od Yahalu HaSelah.
אשרי האדם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו.
Tehillah LeDavid, Aron Mimcha Elohai HaMelech, V'avarcha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
בכל יום אברכך, וחללוך שמך לעולם ועד.
Gadol Adonai Umcha Me'od, V'li Gdulato Ein Cheker.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
Hadar Kavod Hodecha, V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha.
ועזוז נורתך יאמרו, וגדולתך אספרנה.
Zecherav Tuvcha Yabiu, V'tzidchacha Yeranenu.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים מוגדל חסד.
Tov Adonai L'Kol, V'rachmachav Al Kol Ma'asav.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
Kavod Malchutcha Yomeru, Ukvaratcha Yedaberu.
להודיע לבני אדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
Malchutcha Malchut Kol Olamim, Umemshaltecha V'kol Dor V'dor.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Enei Kol Elecha Yesaberu, Ve'ata Noten Lahem Et Ocham Beito.
פותח את ידיך, ומצביע לכל הרצון.
Tzadik Adonai B'kol Jachav, V'chasid B'kol Ma'asav.
קרוב אדוני לכל קורב, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
Ratzon Yerei Yaseh, Ve'et Shavatam Yishma V'yoshem.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל רשעים ישמיד.
Tehillah Adonai Yedaber Pi, V'yvarach Kol B'sar Shem Kocho Le'olam Va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water and air its soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. Please rise if you are able to for our Amidah on page 226.
וזוכר הסערות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל, מחכה חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם.
Go. How shall we sanctify God's name? By being holy ourselves. How do we accomplish this? Let our prayers bring us to sacred deed, to actions that promote justice, harmony, and peace. We continue on page 235. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and hands, we give praise. For the peace in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For the gift of Shabbat, which renews us for life, we offer blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Adonai, our God, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you. In this land, Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence.
Baruch atah Adonai she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod.
Please turn to page 238. Modim anachnu lach she'atahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elokei avotenu ve'imotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu, magen yishenu, atahu lador vador. Nodeh lach unseper tehilatecha al chayenu hamsurim be'adecha. Ve'al nishmotenu hapudot lach. Ve'al nisecha shebakol yom imanu. Ve'al niflotecha vetovotecha shebakol et erev b'boker v'tzacharayim. Hatov ki lo kalu rachamecha v'chamrachem ki lo tamu chasadecha me'olam kivinu lach. Ve'al kulam yitbarach v'tomam shimcha malkeinu tamid le'olam va'ed. Ve'kol chachayim yoducha sela. V'halelu et shimcha be'emet ha'el yeshuatenu ve'ezratenu sela. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulcha na'eh lehodot. Please join us on Shalom Rav on page 240.
Shalom Rav Israel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Israel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Betov benecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. Bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Please take a few moments for a silent prayer.
We've entered into the central element of our service this afternoon, our Seder Kriyat Torah, our time when we focus on the words of the foundation of our Jewish heritage, of our history, of our legacy, a time when we have those who come in, family, friends, and loved ones, have the opportunity to have an aliyah over the Torah, to have honor in its reading. It's time, the sacredness, the traditions, as Rob mentioned, as I mentioned earlier also, midor vador, this idea that we go from generation to generation. The Torah was passed from our ancestors, it was passed down to the prophets, to the Rabbanim, and to us, our sacred holders and carriers of the Torah. And yes, we can pull it up on our iPads, and yes, we can pull it up anywhere we choose to in this moment. But we continue to read from the sacred scroll because there's an almost 4,000-year-old tradition of the history, the richness, the beauty, the wonder, the depth, and the pain, all together, all mixed, as we join together in that moment to hold it, and as Leo will incite us with his own words and will teach us also after our Torah reading this afternoon. We are blessed to have grandparents here this afternoon, and I'm going to invite both grandparents and parents to join us on the bima as we prepare for Seder Kriyat Torah on page 246. I invite you to please rise if you are able.
Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Udvar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, uneromema Shema yachdav. Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Ki hu b'shamayim v'haaretz, ki hu b'shamayim v'haaretz.
Wonderful to be here with all of you in this moment. As I mentioned, the power of passing down the Torah and its legacy. Every week we have 54 Torah portions, and we have the opportunity each and every year to read them. Sometimes we double up on some, sometimes we read them just in its native form. And so this afternoon we're anticipating next week's Torah portion. So we are finishing the book of Leviticus in this moment today, as Leo will read, and we'll get to say the famous words that we will as we complete a book of Torah at the end. And the Torah portion that Leo will be reading from is called Bechuchotai in the book of Leviticus. And what does this Torah portion tell us? Well, Leo's going to tell us a little bit about that after his reading this afternoon. But just a brief summary of understanding that God is promising Bnei Israel, is promising the children of Israel that they follow the laws and that they will be warned about curses that will befall the people if they don't observe the commandments. Basically, do what you're told and blessing will come upon you. Don't do what you're told and you'll see what happens. And we can take this as the harshness around it, and I certainly read it as such. I don't believe it's the narrative of our time necessarily in that moment, but there are great lessons, incredible lessons and insights for us to uncover in this week's Torah portion, because the Israelites are beginning their journey. They come from slavery. They are avadim. They're trying to formulate a relationship with one another, with God, with the earth, with animals. They're trying to make this a community and a foundational text which can be followed in 2022 and beyond. And so we are blessed to have a number of aliyot, a number of Torah readings that Leo will share, and a number of aliyot, of blessings of individuals from Leo's family that will come up and share in the blessings of Torah. And for our first aliyah, and the exact readings can be found on the screens that you see to the right and left of me, and as well online you will see the readings on your screens. For our first aliyah over the Torah, I delight in calling upon Hedda Panzer, Bill Panzer, Barbara Abramson, Dan Abramson, Arnold Fink, and Carol Fink. Yamdu itabat Chezkel v'Sofi velvol ben Lev v'Liba Brindolea bat Lev v'Sylvie Daniel ben Yisrael v'Acharon ben Hersha v'Sylvie B'Alei Rishona. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher banu mikol ha'amim v'nasan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Im buchgotai telechu v'yamitzvotai tishmeru v'asitem otam. V'natati gishmechem be'itam v'natana ha'aretz yabua v'etz hasadeh yiten piryo. V'hisig lachem daish et batir ubatir yasig et zarah v'yachotem lachnechem lasoba v'shavtem la'beitach bi'artechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan Torah tanet v'chayei olam atah b'shofenu. Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Oh, such a good job.
For a second Aliyah with the Torah, I delight in calling upon Lawrence Benenson, Sarah Lamory, Elise Benenson, and Guthrie Weinschenk. Yamdu Leba Adam, Rina Gabriela Batilan Bela Shenit.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. V'natati shalom ba'aretz u'shchabtem ve'en macharid ve'yishvati chaya ra'ah min cha'aretz v'cherev lo ta'avor ba'artechem urdaftem et oivechem v'naflu ifnechem lecharev v'artu mikem chamisha me'ah u'ma'ah mikem revava yerdofu v'naflu oivechem Lifnechem lecharev ufani tilechem v'hifarti etchem v'hirbeti etchem v'hakimoti et bereti itchem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Thank you.
For a third Aliyah, I'd like to call upon Stephen Fink, Maya Sternberg, and Danielle Fink. Yamdu Maya Beleh Bat Bracha Beleh Shlishit.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Hamvarai.
Baruch Adonai
Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. V'yachaltem yashan noshan ve'yashan mimnei chadash totziu v'natati mishkani b'tochachem v'lo tig'al nafshi etchem v'hitolachti b'tochachem v'chayiti lachem l'Elohim ve'atem tihui le'am ani Adonai Elechem asher choteti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim michiot lahem avadim v'ashbor motot ulchem v'olachetchem komamiyut.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. For our fourth Aliyah, I delight in calling upon Jessica and Robert. Yamdu Yochevet Kela Batita Velan Veruven Acharon Ben Brinda Leah Vacharon Belea Revit.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim
V'natan lanu et Torato.
Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Ve'im lo tishma'u li ve'lo ta'asu et kol mitzvot ha'eleh. Ve'im b'chkotai tim asu ve'im et mishpatai tid'al nafshechem. Chavilti asot et kol mitzvotai l'chabrachem et breiti. Alfani esezot lachem v'hivgadeti alechem bechalal et chashachef et v'etrachadachat machelot einayim umdivot nafesh uzraten larik zarachem v'achuchu oivechem v'natati fanai v'achem v'niyatem v'ifnei oivechem radu v'achem sonechem v'nastem v'ein rodef etchem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lahu Torah emet v'chayei olam v'gnat b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And for the blessing and reading of our next Leah delight in calling upon our bar mitzvah, Leo Solomon Fink. Yamod, 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 Lev Shlomo ben Ruven Acharon ve'yochevet Kela, Bachor HaMitzvah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Ve'im ad ele lo tishma'u li v'yasavti v'yasra etchem she'eva al chatotechem. V'shavarti et ge'on uschem v'natati et shmechem kabarzel ve'et artechem kanchusha v'tam larik kochachem v'lo titein artechem et tibla ve'et ha'aretz lo yitain piryo ve'im telchu ami keri v'lo ta'avu lishmo la'li v'yasavti alechem makah she'eva kechatotechem Ve'yishlachti bachem et chaya chasadeh ve'shikla etchem ve'chichrita et bachem techem ve'himimta etchem ve'nashamu darchechem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And whenever we reach a new moment of joy and of blessing in our tradition, we join together in the words of Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah
This time I'd like to call upon Sam to open the art doors, and I delight in calling upon Evelyn and Gary Rosenblum, Ann, Harvey Brenner, and Lawrence Lotsoff to hold and dress our Torah, and invite everyone to please rise.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני עיני ישראל. אני אדוני יד משה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיך שלום שיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם.
You may be seated.
Michael Jordan once said, if you do the work, you get rewarded. There are no shortcuts in life. Well, I think that this is true in many cases, and while my Torah portion for today talks about this as well, I don't always agree with this idea. My parashat is Bechukotai. This is part of the last book of Leviticus, the third book in the Torah. In Bechukotai, God promises that if the people of Israel keep God's commandments, they will enjoy wealth and be safe in their homeland. But God also gives a harsh warning, saying that lots of bad things will happen if they break their covenant with God. The overall message in my Torah portion is God explaining to the people of Israel that if you do something good, you get rewarded, but if you do something bad, you'll receive a consequence. This seems to match at least part of what Michael Jordan said about getting rewarded if you do the work. As I said, I both agree and disagree with this message, and I will tell you why. One question raised by my Torah portion is, why did God view the rewards and punishments in such a strict and straightforward way? As is Cooney, a commentator on the Torah, said about this, if you'll walk in my statutes, if you'll do what I decreed you should do, also the clouds and the soil and the trees, all of which have been created for only your sake, will do their share as I've instructed them to do so. I think that when his Cooney is saying this, he means by listening to God's laws, God will give you all sorts of great gifts, like clouds, soil, and trees, but you need to strictly follow God's laws in order to receive these gifts. I think that God viewed the rewards and punishments so strictly in the Torah because the Israelites were trying to create a brand new community. When you are trying to create a brand new community, you need to have very clear rules to keep people intact. If people can constantly bend the rules, a community will be harder to form. When just starting to form a community, it is a lot harder to keep people working toward the same goals when the rules are loose. I think that when the rules start to get in your head, then you can loosen them up a little bit. A good example of this is when we moved into our new house. When we just moved in, no matter how clean our shoes were, we weren't allowed to wear them in the house. As time flew by, that rule started to loosen up. I've understood that if your shoes are muddy or dirty, then you shouldn't wear them in the house. Even to this day, I won't wear my cleats or dirty shoes in the house. You may ask how all this relates to rewards and punishments being super straightforward. My dad would originally punish me if he caught me wearing my cleats in the house because he wanted to get the message in my head that I can't wear cleats in the house. I think that once God noticed an Israelite do something that may have broken a rule, God would have enforced a punishment. After some time, once the Israelites started to understand the rules, God was able to loosen them up because Israelites would not make those same mistakes again in the future. I think that in life, there will often be a reward when you do something positive or good, but if you mess up, there will be a consequence. But that is not always true. Sometimes you do everything right and things still do not go your way, and sometimes you can fix the bad consequences from a mistake. You need to try and remember that it is okay to make a mistake. You need to apologize to anyone it may have affected and try your best not to make that same mistake again in the future. When you make a mistake, not accepting the consequence will only ever make things worse. This also makes me think about the community service I've been doing as part of my mitzvah project. For the past 6 months, my mom and I have been helping out at the San Diego Rescue Mission, serving meals to anyone who may need one. Helping the needy is always an important part of my Jewish values, my portion, and the Torah itself. I think a lot about how lucky and privileged I am for things that I may take for granted. Not just material things, but things like family, health, friends, and knowing where our next meal will come from. But this also relates to my Torah portion and Michael Jordan's quote. Sometimes you put in the work and you get rewarded. But sometimes bad things happen to you even when you've not done anything wrong. You may have had bad luck or found yourself in a bad situation. A lot of the people at the rescue mission just need a helping hand to get their reward and have good things come their way. Working with the people at the rescue mission has taught me that people are people, no matter their status in life. It has also taught me that people handle certain situations in different ways. Some people who come in for food want to talk and interact. Some just want to move along. A lot of people think that all homeless people just sit on the streets and do nothing. I hate that misconception now more than ever because my time helping out at the rescue mission has taught me that a lot of people want to engage in a conversation. Sometimes just looking people in the eye and smiling can brighten their mood. At the end of my Torah portion, I said, Chazak, Chazak, v'ni kazech. This is because my Torah portion is the last one in the book of Leviticus, and we say these 3 words at the end of each book in the Torah. It is the ending of one part of the Torah and the beginning of another, just like my bar mitzvah, the ending of me being a child and the beginning of me being a man. Chazak, Chazak, v'ni kazech means strong, strong, and be strengthened. This is also a lesson I've learned. You've got to put every ounce of effort into everything you do so you don't feel bad when you're done. Even if you don't succeed, you'll know that you put in your best effort. You'll be rewarded anyway, even if it's not the reward you thought you would get, because you'll feel good about the work you did. Speaking of the work that I did, there are a lot of people I want to thank for helping me do the work to get to today. Thank you to Rabbi Navarez and Rabbi Cantor Bernstein. Thank you to Heidi Cantor for rescheduling your Israel trip to sing at my bar mitzvah, and thank you to Andy Mayer for playing the piano. Also thanks to my bar mitzvah tutor, Mor Sharon, who helped to guide me through this process. Thank you to my coaches and teachers at SDJA who have taught me so much about being a good student, athlete, person, and member of the Jewish community. Thank you to my parents, especially my mom, who have done so much hard work and so much planning for this special weekend. Thank you to my friends who make my life more fun. And finally, thank you to my brother who has taught me to be strong, and be strengthened.
Leo, you have a lot of questions. I'm not going to deny. There are lots of beautiful, amazing questions that you have that I've heard throughout. And before I want to start that, I want to say even the rabbi gets to mess up every now and again. So I talked about the idea of chazah, and then when you finish your Torah, I was so happy in the moment of you finishing Torah that I forgot those words. So we're going to say it together because those words are really critical, the words that you talked about. So let's join together. Chazak, chazak, venit chazek, be strong, and we will be strengthened. So, your mom once told me that you have a superpower in diffusing situations. Now, that is a very important tool because whether it's on the ski slope and helping mom out, I know there are moments when that happens, or whether it's in the moments where you are playing basketball or flag football, there are moments when you're going to have to diffuse situations. And I thought about a lot of your beautiful words of Torah that you just shared. I thought about how you talked about community and the ability and the importance of building on community and how you do that and the importance of the rules that set forth and all of those elements, right? Those are who you are, right? Well, mom's a rule follower, I know that. She follows the rules. So you may try to question that and may try to shake that a little bit from time to time. You do, right? Yes, I know you do. I was being kind. Yes, you do. I know you do. So, but that's a beautiful thing, right? Because in our tradition, and I'll give you an example of Israel because that's a good one for me. In Israel, as compared to the IDF or the US military, you don't really question your superior command. And in Israel, if the squad or the Edah has a disagreement with their Rosh Edah, with their commander or their Mifaked, then they can overrule, depending on the department, their commander's decisions, or they can have high input in that. And I'm not to say that you're a Mifaked and you're Mifakedet over there, you're going to overrule them necessarily, but the idea is that in our tradition, we never accept complacency. We never accept the status quo, and we're always pushing for more. This is the moment where you tell your community and you tell the world, I'm ready to step up, and I'm ready to keep on pushing. I'm ready to find the resolve in what is this world that we're trying to make that's complicated and beautiful and painful at times. What is my role, Leo? That's the question. I think it's embedded in your name, Lev Shlomo. Lev means heart. Shlomo has a root in it, shalem means peace. And so the idea of a peaceful heart is the way in which I hope that whenever you get on that field, whenever you go down those slopes, whenever you're in class, that you are actually doing the work to remember that the way in which you diffuse situations, the way in which you tackle hard, complex situations, the way if you see someone being bullied, the way you stand up and help those that are in need, that, to me, is what Lev Shlomo holds. And you have the ability and the capacity to do that. So here we are on the day when you have led us beautifully. You've incited us with your own Torah knowledge. You've given us food for thought to walk out of here. You're going to celebrate big later, which you should, because this is a simcha. All of it is enveloped in what it means to stand up here on this day. On this day, I hope that you heed the words of your parents because they were quite beautiful. I hope that you never stop asking questions. I really do. I hope that when the questions that you ask are going to lead to something that you want to pursue and you want to bring in this world that's just, that's tzedek. When you are the rodef tzedek, the pursuer of justice, there's a lot of power in that action. Knowing all of this, how beautifully you've led us today, is wonderful, but it's not the end all. What you do after this is what counts. So on this day, when you're surrounded by family and friends and loved ones, I hope and I pray that you'll continue to heed that call and you'll continue to be a rodef tzedek. You'll continue to be a pursuer of justice in this world that's very much in need of your leadership and your guidance. And so I have the opportunity to place my hands upon your shoulders as we offer this ancient blessing that's been passed from generation to generation. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'choneka. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. May God's presence ever be with you, Leo. May you be granted health and long life, the courage to fill your life with much joy, with much blessing, and most of all, peace, as we say together, Amen. Amen. Stay up here for a second. At this time, I would like to call upon one of the officers of our congregation, who I'm looking for him, I don't see him, John Lefter. If you're in the kahal, I'd like you to come forward, but I don't see him. I hope he's okay. But that leaves me the great privilege and distinction of presenting you with some gifts from the congregation. And so I'm very excited to present that to you in this moment, because we have quite a few for you. You with me? Mm-hmm. Are you sure? Okay, good. So the first is, earlier, before our service today, you signed your Tu'udat B'nai Mitzvah, you signed your Bar Mitzvah certificate, which talks about all the rights and privileges that you now take forward. You read it, you have 2 lawyers in the family, there's no backing out of it. It is signed and sealed, so that is now, your Chatima is on it, your seal, and now we're ready to move forward. A tree has been planted on the honor of the occasion of you becoming Bar Mitzvah in Israel. I hope that you will have the opportunity not long from now, perhaps to plant a tree in honor and memory of someone that you love in Israel. And I know you'll have many opportunities to go to Israel, certainly with SDJA, and one that I hope you'll take advantage, a partial gift certificate is being presented to you today from the North American Federation of Temple Youth for NIFTY. I hope that you'll have the opportunity to go and experience and explore the land with your peers. And 2 important gifts from the women of Beth Israel and from our men's club, a Kiddush cup and candlestick holders. I hope that they don't collect dust in your room, but that you find great uses for it, not only now, but in your new chapters of life and living.
My mom will.
She will? Yeah, I think she'll definitely find somewhere. I got it. So, and the last one, which pretty much I think is the most important one, is on the doorpost of your house. It's a compendium of incredible ceremonies and prayers that you get to use, and you can look at it almost as a reference. So when you're at home and you want to look at the blessing of Kiddush for Rosh Hashanah, or you want to find some other meanings and depths, this is your go-to reference guide. So I hope that you will use these elements and these beautiful pieces really, really well in your life. And so we are at that moment where we are beginning to conclude our service, and I would invite everyone in the congregation to turn to page 282, and I invite you to please rise as we face eastward towards Yerushalayim, and we join together in the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא
We take a moment to reflect on those who are no longer physically with us, but those who continue to live on in our hearts and in our memories. As we prepare to recite the ancient words of Kaddish Tom, the mourner's Kaddish, we think of loved ones in Leo's family. We think of all those we continue to hold in our hearts. As together we join and say, Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirtei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei l'chol Beit Israel, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu. Le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata. Tush berchata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav. Uyaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Zichronam levracha, may their memories ever continue to inspire and be for blessing as together we say Amen. I invite you to put your prayer books down as we begin to transition out of our time of Shabbat, and I invite the family to join us on the bima. In a moment, we're going to have the opportunity to ritualize this transition from Kodesh to Chol, from the sacred to the ordinary. We do this through the act of Havdalah. Havdalah gives us three ritual items that we transition with. The wine, the sweetness that reminds us of the week to come, the sweetness that we held in the week that previously passed. The besamim, the varied spices that fill that voided mystical soul, Shabbat departs, and the age, the twisted candle that we extinguish to note, we light it, we extinguish it to note that we've transitioned, but also we know that every time we light a Havdalah candle, we have the capacity to create anew once again. So we join together on your screens, at home, or in our sanctuary. We invite you to join with us.
La Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol chatoteinu hu yimchol zareinu v'chasbenu yarbe kachol v'hakochavim halayla shavua tov shavua tov shavua tov shavua tov shavua tov Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov. A good week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. A good week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi.
Shavua Tov and Mazel Tov to Leo on this wonderful occasion. Thank you all for being here. Mazel Tov!